Welcome to I Heart Geek.
And welcome to another episode of I Heart Geek. Which one of these is not like the other one?
Me.
That'd be me, I think, on this one.
Pretty sure it's you.
I have the different chromosome stuff today.
Outnumbered.
As well,
Or it could be just that you're bald.
It could be, but no, I think it's the chromosome thing. Because we are doing a show on female comedic geniuses. And to be fair, this was planned to be an all-female episode, but schedules happened, so I had to jump on. So I'm sorry to everybody.
So Dub's a girl.
I'm sorry for wow, I feel like junior high again. Wow.
For at least for the next hour. Enjoy it while you can, listeners.
I'm a little sad we
us.
didn't get like a blonde wig or something.
I could do that. I could totally make this happen.
Don't encourage his use
Next
of filters.
I'll just give you a wig. It'll be awesome.
Okay, so let me introduce the panel. I'm Dub. I do stuff, and I'm not the important part of the show today. The important part of the show is Miss Cheeky Chi and Michelle and Courtney. How are y'all doing today?
Good. This is going to be
Great.
fun.
Yeah, we're ready.
Yeah,
Let's do
this honestly brought up some very interesting thoughts on the page and all that when people found out we were doing this, and I thought this actually is drawing a lot more interest than I thought it was. So let's not screw up.
The ladies are funny.
Well, yeah,
Just
that's
saying.
kind of the point. So let's go into kind of the parameters of what we're talking about today. Originally, we wanted to talk about the original comic geniuses of the female persuasion, but I think we've kind of opened it up to everything, all female comics.
Well, yeah.
Kind of what it's opened up to. So
Yeah.
So let's ask this question since I want to go back to the original first. Who was the first female comic that just inspired you that said, wow, she's freaking hilarious? Let's start with Christina.
Joan Davis, absolutely. I was 17 years old. I worked 3 jobs, and one of them was working nights for a bar owner. And they didn't have HBO, but they had AMC. And I started watching this show, I Married Joan, similar to I Love Lucy. But Joan Davis is freaking hilarious. Her comedic style, physical comedy. It's with Jim Backus, and they're just brilliant across from each other. And it was the first time that I was like, she's the funny one. Like, she's the star of this. Versus, like, when you look at, like, Gilligan's Island, they're funny, but as a group, but as a background secondary character. So I fell in love with her, and I became obsessed with AMC, too. But that's a whole nother show.
Michelle, what about you?
Carol Burnett, which is funny because I was a kid, and one of my favorite movies was Annie.
I hated her so much in Annie because I just hated the character. She was so good in it that I hated her.
So good.
Yeah,
So
she
good.
just played her so perfect. And it was funny because most of those jokes went over my head because, like the bathroom gin and then like just the innuendos that were going on, like it went over my head. But at the same time, I'm this little girl watching this crazy lady, like play this crazy part and be hilarious and all these things. So, yeah, she just did it for me.
Courtney, what about you?
I second Carol Burnett, but I guess if the other one that really kind of was hilarious to me. I mean, obviously Lucille Ball won, but I'm gonna say Catherine O'Hara, and that's because when I was a kid, we used to watch. There was a TV show that was on called SCTV, which came out of Canada. I don't know how many people have seen this, but
It's a rat in my beer, eh?
Yeah, I mean, but she played like a myriad of crazy characters, and she just was hilarious. So yeah, I mean, there's the obvious choices of Lucille Ball and whatnot, but Catherine O'Hara, she would just do like she was fearless with her comedy. Like she didn't care if she looked ugly, she didn't care if she looked pretty, she didn't care if she fell down and looked stupid. She just went all the way for it, and
Yep.
I thought that was rad.
Well, that is really what I think makes a good comic in general. If you don't care if you look pretty or ugly or silly, that's the point.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you've got to be able to be the butt of the joke before you can be the top of the joke.
Yeah, I
Otherwise,
think that comes with just
No, go
being
ahead.
comfortable with your like in your own skin, and that's
Mhm.
that's a huge thing, and I think for women especially, you
Mhm.
know. So
Yeah, and you know, I'd like to think shows like SCTV and Saturday Night Live who really did put women on equal ground. So it's, you know, growing up, I never really saw this a female comic, this a male comic, because I didn't care. It's like this person's hilarious, especially shows like that they really just put these characters that were hilarious up. Which, so let's talk for a minute about kind of some of the. I think Saturday Night Live will probably be the more prevalent of the two. There's been a few other shows like that, but the sketch comedy is really where everyone gets a chance to shine. I think that's where a lot of the female comics come from, and Groundlings, but let's be honest, we don't get to see them, so I can't really talk about them. So who are some of the Saturday Night Live stars that you've seen that have really broken down the barriers in that? I think, and I want to throw out one first, is Jane Curtin, who went later did Kate and Alley and Third Rock from the Sun. Coneheads. She was the funniest person on the Coneheads scenes that they did with Dan Aykroyd there, and she outshined him. And I think that's saying something.
Yeah, she's very funny.
Christina, what about you?
Well, so SNL was kind of a challenge for me because I wasn't allowed to watch it until I was an adult.
I had to sneak it.
But my parents didn't realize that Mad TV was somewhat equal
As
to.
subversive?
Mhm.
So
It's funnier, honestly.
right. So I watched a lot of Mad TV, and I think that and my brain's just stopping right here. Sorry, I got a little distracted with work. But Nicole Sullivan is just.
She is. Oh,
She's hilarious.
She
rubber faced,
yeah.
and and a comedian that is so rare, male or female, that is so rare to have that rubber faced hilarity constantly. And I love Nicole Simpson because of that.
Yeah, and I learned. I'm definitely a little more self-conscious when I'm on camera, but like when I'm hanging out with my friends, like those facial expressions and stuff, I have no problem throwing those at my friends and having them laugh so hard they spit drinks at me. But
it's not because you're funny; they're just wanting to spit drinks at you, Christian.
Wah,
wah. I'm
wah,
sorry.
wah, wah. I'm gonna remember that.
I know.
It's on.
No.
It's on video now, so you'll never forget.
Right? Ever.
Michelle, what about you?
Oh my gosh. So Molly Shannon cracks me up. Because she is just like that. She's genuine and she's just crazy. But it's what I love, and I think maybe this is why I love some of the female comics that I do, is that she can just play these crazy, crazy characters, but she can also play like this. She has like this sweet, I don't know, sweet personal gentle side, and but then she'll just do crazy things like falling into chairs and all that. But I will always love like the Tina Fey Amy Poehler combo, Maya Rudolph, who I adore. But see, I never watched Saturday Night Live much as a kid, so I didn't really experience a lot of the early like Gilda Radner and all that till I was older.
Well, that was
So,
literally when we were born, when that was Gilda.
but I mean, you know, like
Yeah.
I just never watched any of that until I was older.
Yeah. Courtney?
So I'm gonna branch out of SNL
Okay.
since we're talking about groundbreaking women, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Phyllis Diller.
Mm.
Because Phyllis Diller was a groundbreaking female comic because she was essentially the first, what would be considered the first female stand-up comedian. And that's the one thing I have an issue with the Miss Maisel TV show, but I won't go into that. Because the other thing is she made her mark, one as a female comedian, stand-up comedian, but also because she looked like an everyday housewife. And that's what she kind of played on at that point in time. So, I mean, she was one of those ones that kind of led the way for people like Amy Poehler and Tina Fey and all the SNL ladies. So, plus, if you ever listen to some of her original stuff, and Joan Rivers too. If you listen to the original stand-up from them, it's still hilarious to this day. Like, it is still funny to this day. And what was great about Phyllis Diller, she like constantly make fun of herself. Like, her life was a joke, but she was like, let me tell you why it is. So she was awesome.
That really is I think, key ingredient to any comedian in general is you've got to be able to make fun of yourself. That's people don't want to be made fun of. They want to see you make fun of yourself. And with that, you can make fun of anything you want.
Yeah, you can't take yourself too seriously, or the problems in your life. Sometimes it's like therapy, like to just laugh through them. And if they can do that in that way, then that's a huge quality that I love.
Yeah, and Phyllis Diller was definitely one of those. I'm all on the Diller train right now because I'm like, she was so gross.
Right.
I mean, she had stuff that made Andrew Dice Clay blush. I'm just saying.
Especially for that time period when she first came out too, which was like the mid to late 60s when she first came out with her stuff. She was a shock comedian. I mean, she was around the same time as Lenny Bruce and Don Rickles when they came up and stuff. And I mean, it's like people were laughing, but they were going,
I shouldn't be laughing, right?
And the other thing is she was a woman, so there was also that, like, should a woman really be saying that? And she was basically, don't care, here we go.
Well, honestly, and I do, thinking back on Phyllis Diller, she was so underappreciated. I think I give her every bit of respect that I give Lenny Bruce.
Oh, absolutely.
And Lenny Bruce, I have respect for what he did, but you go back and listen to his comedy now, it's not funny. Phyllis Diller's comedy is still hilarious.
That's the thing, is like her comedy, her stand-up still holds up to this day. Like, it's 2021 and she's still funny, and you're like,
it's timeless.
That exactly, yourself. That's comedy right there. If you can listen to something, or if you can like watch a comedian, like, that's why the Lucille Ball stuff is still funny. It's just, there was that little something extra that they had. Same thing with like the Gilda Radner stuff and the Jane Curtin stuff. I mean, like, that was 40 years ago, still funny.
Yeah. Not as funny as at the time. I think it was every bit as funny as Phyllis Diller and Lucille Ball. But honestly, the Diller stuff and the Lucille Ball stuff especially, it holds up better. I don't know, and if I knew what that magic recipe was, I'd bottle it and sell it, because
and the thing is the cool thing with Phyllis Diller and Joan Rivers and that kind of stuff, and even Lenny Bruce, I know we're talking about ladies, but we'll throw them in. It was like the birth of observational comedy.
Yes.
Because up until then, it was vaudeville, and it was, I'm going to tell you a joke, like a joke.
Yeah.
But with Phyllis Diller, it was like, okay, so I was doing the dishes the other day. Y'all know what that's like. And so, like, it was, that kind of era really kind of brought us into observational comedy, which we still have to this day. That's still funny to this day. Yeah.
Well, the audience, you can relate to that stuff. So, and you brought up the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, like, with a kind of sneer, but like,
I held some issues too, but I think
there's no kind of about it, Michelle.
I know. Okay, but so the endearing part that I like about the character and about the the story and what's going on, is that that's exactly what she did. And when she tried to get away from that, it was like everyone was like, "Yeah, well, you're not really funny anymore." But when she was just like, "Oh, okay, well, so you want to hear about my crazy life and I can laugh about it and all that." So it's that same sort of idea that, um, and again, like I guess, with women, we have to fight so hard sometimes to be like, yeah, I am funny, but that kind of thing, that spark, I guess, there's just a spark about it. But if you can relate to it
Hmm.
as a watcher, as a fan, then yeah, it becomes even more funny.
I watched Mrs. Maisel specifically for Alex Bornstein as Susie Meyerson. That woman is a genius. I
She's
fell in love
another.
with her on Mad TV.
Hmm.
Yeah,
She's
She,
Lois.
oh, she's so good. Like,
I love
oh,
her.
She's another one we need to mention as being a super talented female comedian. She's
Well,
hilarious.
and Jane Lynch in that series, to me, kind of embodied, what I guess the struggle, was, or in some cases still is. She was like an entirely different person
Hmm.
on stage, like, and
as
she kind of had
versus
to
off
turn.
stage. Yeah.
Isn't everybody kinda?
Yeah, some people
I
are.
don't,
Just
yeah,
for our listeners, so they don't kind of lynch me later. I have no issue. Miss Maisel is a great show. The only issue I have is Miss Maisel is loosely based on Phyllis Diller. The biggest issue that I have is they cast someone beautiful to play Miss Maisel, and part of Phyllis Diller's appeal is she wasn't a beautiful woman. And she played that up by having no makeup and having a fright wig and the crazy hair and
Yeah.
everything. What she did is she took that 50s stereotypical beautiful Donna Reed housewife and turned it on its edge. And they
Yep.
don't do that
Yeah.
in Miss Maisel. And that's the only thing that bothers me about the show. So I'm not dogging anybody's love for Miss Maisel.
oh, that's fair. That's fair. And I think what's also fair, though, on the flip side, is Rachel Brosnan, though, was it, and still is, because but she's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I think, she is just the spark in that show anyway. But I totally get that. No, I
I
get
think what she does on stage is absolutely amazing on that show. I guess it's not made for my audience. That's fine. But I enjoy the show, honestly. I actually hold issue with the Carol Kay character, who is the bass player, who is like my favorite bass player of all time, period. And Carol's not real happy with that portrayal of her either, because it really made her a bad mom, and yeah, a lot of things that I had issue with. But I think the show's great. But I finally got my favorite bassist on TV, and well, okay, I don't like her anymore. Okay, so let's talk since we're kind of on the subject anyway. The Mount Rushmore of female comedians. I think we can all have our own, but I think we can all agree Lucille Ball is probably the George Washington spot on there. Who were your other three? Let's start with Christina.
Why do you do that to me?
Because it's funny.
Right, because it's funny. Absolutely. For me, again, I'm going to go back to Joan Davis. It's 90 some episodes. It's worth it to watch it. She is funny and she's real, and it's like Lucille Ball. You watch these today, they're still really funny. And it was actually, she retired. It was the last thing she did. Prior to that, she did a lot of B-rated movies. But she opened so many doors, and when she retired, she actually started opening doors for other women to move up and support them and get them in the business, and I think that's a huge thing.
Fair enough.
Oh, I have to give you two more.
You have to give me two more.
Okay, well, they're not all classics, but
That's fine.
absolutely Melissa McCarthy. She has broken barriers. And you look at her in Gilmore Girls when she started out as Suki, and her physical comedy and that combination that we love, that endearing personality, the physical comedy,
Mm-hmm.
and then to watch her as she got off of Gilmore Girls and began to do movies, and you watch her in like Identity Theft.
Uh-huh.
Is that, I think that's the name of it. Oh my God. That just is awkward and funny and hilarious. And she just keeps going. Her Hyundai commercials about saving the planet. I saw it on, somebody sent it to me on YouTube, and I literally spit water across my screen because I was laughing so hard when she gets thrown up against the ship. She's a genius.
I hope she never does anything too serious. Like-
Right?
I don't want to
She
see her pull a
has.
Jim
She
Carrey.
has.
I don't want to
Yeah,
see
she
it.
has.
But she,
Was it any good?
And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was like the one I'm thinking of, St. Vincent. She got a nomination
it.
for her acting. So she's done it. She can do both, but
Mm-hmm.
comedies are fine.
You got one
So.
more, Christina.
Sally Fields.
Ooh, good pick.
Good choice.
I'm glad you didn't say Sally Struthers. I'm sorry.
No, Sally Fields she tickles me with her humor, her impressions. If you look at her in shows like Smokey and the Bandit, when she's doing
so good.
She's doing her Roy Rogers impression with Burt Reynolds, and she just plays so well off of and she's great as dramatic too, but anybody you put her with, she's almost seamless. I very rarely have I seen a bad Sally Fields movie.
Oh, well, I mean, even when she aged up in Soap Dish was fantastic.
Yes, Soap Dish.
But I'm thinking about when she aged up. She did her whole life in Forrest Gump.
Yeah,
just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to disagree with anybody's picks. However, I don't think I think she's the better actress than comedian. But that's me.
Yeah.
Soap Dish.
Soap Dish was hilarious.
That's all I have to say. Anytime you say Sally Field is not a comedian.
Okay. And I take my lumps on that one. Michelle, what are your...
Well, I think if we're talking, to me, the Mount Rushmore of female comics, like I guess my brain goes to, classics, but who kind of like paved the way for people. And I think we're all going to have different opinions. So I've definitely got Carol Burnett on my list. I've got, Gilda Radner on my list for obvious reasons. I only get 3.
Well, if you want to take Lucille Ball off, but that's, hey, that's on you.
I would guess, and then obviously Betty White is going to be on there. She's, when you talk about the foundation, these women who have laid the foundation for this, for all the people that came after them, all the women that came after them, and she is still, and even more so now, like this icon. Like we are all just like bracing ourselves, like nothing better happened to Betty White because she's so amazing and so
she was
genuine.
trending this morning on Twitter, and everybody's like, she better be okay.
I know.
She better be okay.
There's like a monthly scare with Betty White. So it's
well, she's like 99.
I know.
She's
like,
older than sliced bread. No joke.
She really is older than sliced bread.
She was also the best COVID social distancing. Don't kill Betty. That was genius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really was. So that, those women to me are just among that group. But then I've got to go, something that popped up and this is before my time, was Moms Mabley, and she's a female comic of color. And at the time, and we were talking the 30s, 60, she was like Smothers Brothers, Ed Sullivan Show. She did some films also, but just years and years and years of comedy. And I think when I talk about paving the way for women, I think it's very important to recognize female comedians of color. Like, and now, we've got like Tiffany Haddish, that's big, Retta from Parks and Rec, who I adore, and so many other women. And so she's on that list for me big time for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Courtney?
Okay, so 3, right? All right. Madeline Kahn.
So
she really needs no.
We
don't really need to go.
That's perfection, honestly.
If we're talking in terms of groundbreakers too that led the way, there was a vaudeville comedian. Her name was Sophie Tucker. You want to talk about gross? Sophie Tucker. I cannot tell any of her jokes on air because they are not family friendly. Bette Midler does them.
Oh, okay.
Does a lot of them in her she'll always, for those of you the Bette Midler stuff, she goes, I was talking to my boyfriend Ernie the other day, or my girlfriend Clementine. If that's it, those are Sophie Tucker jokes from vaudeville. They are gross, but they are hilarious. She was just funny. I mean, she's not well known now because it is vaudeville, and there's not a lot of
recordings.
Yeah, there's not a lot of vaudeville left, but she was truly a groundbreaker in that term. So what am I on? That's 2. And then the last one.
It's okay, I cheated.
Okay. The last one has to be, for me, it's gotta be Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
Just for her ability to fall down the stairs.
Dramatically.
And I think the honorable mention would be Lily Tomlin. But
yeah, she definitely makes my list. I feel like there's so many that we missed, and
right, like I have a huge list that I'm going through.
It's not really fair to do that to y'all, I know, but and let's be honest, on this panel, no one wants my opinion on this. So let's jump over to the listener feedback.
And now, let's see what all of our geek rock stars have to say.
Okay, so for our listener feedback, we asked our listener rock stars, what is your favorite female comedian ever and why? Again, we got a lot, so we had to cut down to 3.
Yes.
And as always, because this is, the female show, something different. Courtney's going to read the listener feedback today.
He makes me do it every time.
Because you're so good at it, darling.
That's what he says.
And I don't want to do it. That helps too.
He doesn't want to do it. So we got some great feedback. So again, as I always start out, thanks guys for all of your feedback. We really, really appreciate it. Keep it coming. And remember, if I don't reread yours on air, it's because you didn't tell me why.
Well, that and then we had a lot too. So, but yeah, we have a few people, Lon, who
because you didn't tell me why. Anyways, first off, we'll start with our own Satomi Hoffman, who was actually supposed to be on the panel today, but unable to because she has some rehearsal she had to go to. So we love her. So we're going to read her feedback. There are so many, but she has to say that Madeline Kahn is her favorite female comic idol. Good choice. She mastered the art of being beautiful, sultry, ugly, and hilarious and ridiculous for something positively sublime. From her first unforgettable moments as Empress Nympho in History of the World Part 2 to her turn in Lily von Stupp as one of her favorite musical numbers, I'm Tired. See, like, you can tell a comedian is amazing when you just mention, like, a line or what they did and everybody starts cracking up without actually having to see it.
I mean, those are the best names ever anyway. So.
Right?
All right, sorry.
Through her shockingly facile vocals and a major Broadway production of On the 20th Century, she is and shall remain a giantess of the entertainment industry. I would also like to mention the fiance in Young Frankenstein, because that, especially when she becomes the...
And we didn't mention my favorite, but that'll get on the list.
Look at that. Danielle Ariana says, gotta go with Betty White, a pioneer and a living legend. Her brand of quit-wit, at times slightly inappropriate, bold comedy brings me immeasurable joy. I know she's known more for her ditzy / more airhead characters, but I've only known her as the snarky, dirty old lady, and I'm fine with that. Funny is funny. I like that. Funny is funny. Lee Mosses is Carol Burnett, mostly because he grew up watching her show. She was so plastic and ever-changing her bits on the show, parodying everything from Gone with the Wind to the bit parts she played in skits that were mainly about other actors, especially when pitted against Tim Conway or the Mama's Family bits. I love Mama's Family. Vicki Lawrence. Hilarious. Just slayed me every time. Later, he caught on to her older films, matching beat for beat with notable co-stars such as Danny Kaye's. She has the chops and the Tarzan yell.
Yes. I love it.
And that's all our listener feedback. So thanks, everybody. We appreciate it.
Okay, now normally we'd go to the main event, but we have some extra time, and I wanted to have this discussion, although this one scares me a little bit because you know how we stay away from everything political. So we're going to try our best to do that on this.
Dun, dun.
And
Never.
I'm even going to disagree with my own question as we get on here for a second. But I'm gonna ask everybody this
What?
question real quick.
Uh-huh.
What is it gonna take for female comedians to just be considered comedians? And do we need to stop looking at that title of female comedian as a qualifier? Now I'll let you guys go because I'm gonna say my piece and I'll let you guys just kind of discuss on it. I think that we need to get rid of the term female comedian because the female comedians we've talked about today are on par with all the male comedians. They are at that top 10% that's above 90% of male and female comedians because they're that good. I think that the more that it gets mentioned that, oh, well, she's a female comedian, I think that hinders things. But with that being said, I completely understand why it happens. So what's it going to take for us to just look at female comedians as comedians? Let's start with Christina since she hasn't
Nope.
talked in a while.
Nope. Nope.
Wow.
Get
Nope.
it, girl.
I think everybody wants to hear what you have to say now just because that's adamant.
So I personally do not have a problem with female versus male comedians. That maybe I'm older school, but there is a different genre. There's a reason we have boobs. We're females. And I mean, they are female greats. They are male greats. Because even though you have like a female, when you go into a show and it's like just the gross, like it's just being real, it's being raw, it's a completely different experience when you do that with a male comedian. They can be gross and raw, but in a different way. So I personally don't have a problem with it at all, but that's just me, and I recognize that. But you know, because if you start separating it, I think it becomes too convoluted for me.
Fair enough. Michelle?
I am also going to disagree with Dub. I think you are doing a disservice not only to the female comics today, but also the ones who kind of paved that way, laid the foundation for it. There's nothing wrong with those kind of labels, with those kind of distinctions, because like it or not, we are all different. But I think it honors women that do this job, which has always just kind of been the boys' club, and the women who do it so well and who are right on par or even better, than some of these male comics and actors and all that. So um, I I like that. I like, and it's just like saying, the women of color or men of color or something like that. You're kind of honoring that distinction, I guess. For me though, as far as what it takes for women, I guess, to be taken seriously and to do well and all these things, I think I'm more drawn to, these women who are empowered and who are genuine, and they don't necessarily have to resort to, being excessively vulgar or, telling these massively,
Gross.
which was traditionally like a male, and nothing against you guys because I love you so much. But to know that, hey, I don't have to do that to be funny. I can just be myself and be a complete dork and weirdo, and it works. Like they're just themselves and they're comfortable in their skin. They don't have to, worry about, is my hair out of place or anything. They just go up there, or they're in these movies and shows and they are just being these genuine, funny, lovable, relatable women.
Courtney?
That's my 2 cents.
I'm gonna tread lightly because this is a hard topic to talk
Yeah,
about.
Michelle doesn't
apologize.
tread lightly. Sorry.
Well, the problem is, I mean,
That
I
was
guess
toned
one of the
down.
big things for me, is I am a performer. And so I know what it takes in the background to get as far as you can. And comedy is especially difficult for women because, I mean, just performing in general, but comedy is especially difficult for women because notoriously the ability to look stupid and not have to worry about whether your hair is out of place or all that stuff is great, but it also comes with the fact that you have to be beautiful before you get to that part. It doesn't matter how funny you are, you have to be pretty on top of being funny. That's not a requirement for male comedians. So
Right.
what I think a good way to get rid of the female comedian label would be, and it's kind of what I think Michelle was touching on, is instead of saying female comedian, we should just start saying comedian who happens to be female. You know, it's like comedian who happens to be male. You know, comedian who happens to be a comedian of color. I think that might help kind of start doing away with the labels and everybody start just focusing on the fact that this person is hilarious and we appreciate the hilarity of the person. So I think that's the most diplomatic answer I can come up with.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and I'm sorry if I made it sound like yeah.
Oh no, I just wanted to. I'm like, I'm on a line here. I'm
No,
on a
that was
tightrope and I
perfect.
can't jump off the tightrope. So
No, that was perfect. I think for me, just yeah, saying that, yeah, they are hilarious people. Like regardless,
right.
that is the line. But I think just honoring who they are as well as, you know, what it may have taken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just
get
jumped
there.
off of the tightrope without a parachute, so you know.
Now, for all the younger listeners, we have to explain what a tightrope is. Circuses,
Wise.
circuses don't exist anymore.
This is not
And
an apparel
vaudeville.
item.
Yeah, you know, these
A
kids are
long
like,
time
"What is
ago, boys and
vaudeville?"
girls, there were these things called circuses.
Just watch
Where
The
Dumbo
Greatest
came
Showman.
There you go. Just watch The Greatest Showman. Or if you're really drunk and bored, watch Dumbo, the live action Dumbo.
No, don't watch the live action no matter
But
what.
don't get mad at
No.
me if you watch it.
So, well, okay, so let me kind of sandwich this because, and I'll take this show for example, and this is how I want female comics to be looked at. Everybody on the show is on the show because I like them and they're funny. Everybody. You don't get on the show because you're a girl. You don't get on the show because you're a person of color. You don't get on the show because of anything. You get on the show because you're interested.
We send
to talk
Dub $250 a month.
Well, that helps too. That's the only other way.
The only reason I'm on the show is because Dub needed somebody who knew all about Wonder Woman.
And that's how you get. But and it wasn't because you're a girl, but you hold up everybody else.
That's
how I
actually-
want people to. That's how I want comedians to be looked at and actors.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
a great point, because for me, I'm going to say this really quick. One of the reasons I really started very actively listening to I Heart Geek was because of Courtney, because she has this mass amount of knowledge, not just about Wonder Woman, but these things, because she does the work, she does the research, she knows what the heck she's talking about. And you're a joy, honey. I love listening to you. You make me laugh. So for I Heart Geek, this is our way paver right here, Courtney. I love you, and you're the reason I started watching every single episode and listening. So
that, and I yell at Dub a lot, and people.
Yeah, that's a bonus.
People
a
like
bonus,
that for
yeah.
some reason or the other,
For
because she gets
some
away with it.
reason.
She gets away with it. We've been friends long enough, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, I think having this amazing mix on the show is great. Yeah, Courtney was, when I first started watching, it's the same thing, and I think I even mentioned to Dub, like, you know, it is so cool that you have these awesome women and these awesome guys, and yeah, so yeah.
Well,
Love you,
that was
Courtney.
kind of a
Thanks, guys.
tangent. Yeah. So I guess did we
Your
just put
checks are
Courtney?
in the mail.
Did we just put Courtney on the I Heart Geek Mount Rushmore?
Mount Rushmore, yes. Yes.
Okay, let's move on to our main event.
Now it's time for the main event.
for today's main event, we went back to our top 5 format that we've abandoned for the last few weeks. But let's be honest, I'm a traditionalist. It's staying there. I like our top 5 list. Sorry. So our top 5 was, let's see, our top 5 favorite female comedians, their favorite routines or scenes, or just their body of work. Depends on how you guys took the question, because I know we kind of go all over the board on
Yeah,
this
we do.
a lot.
When do we not?
A lot.
Okay,
I
so,
like a lot.
so
A
I'm
lot.
going to start with my number 5, and that is Jane Lynch in literally every character she has played in the Christopher Guest mockumentary universe.
She's
I know
just so
she's so
funny.
good. Again, she transcends male, female. You don't. She transcends lesbian, not lesbian, because she has played like severe, lesbian type. She's played severe, straight former porn star in one of them. She doesn't. She's not herself when she plays, if that makes sense. She's just a joy.
brilliant accent.
She
She's just
knows how to be a
brilliant
character.
actress. One thing I will say, like, my respect for her grew 50,000 times more. She plays Julia Child's sister in Julie and Julia.
Yeah.
And at first you're like, it's Jane Lynch, because it's not a comedic role. It's not whatever comedic roles, but it just is a testament to how good she is. But yeah, she's hilarious.
She will make you laugh. Now, she's not the same kind of make you laugh as like say my Madeline Kahn, but that's okay. They're different comedians
Her
entirely.
delivery is just so good.
Yeah, she's just so committed to the role.
She embraces, she like becomes that character.
And she's
so
a lot more of the
good.
straight-laced character, because that's what she plays better. But it's so brilliant, so perfect, and everybody can work off of her. She's like, if you watch hockey, she's the perfect center, because everybody is better when they're around her.
Yes.
Always. Christina, what is your number 5?
So my number 5 is actually Lucille Ball, the grape stomping scene.
Oh.
And so I don't know if you know this, but
so good.
She never actually did the grape stomping until they were filming, because she wanted her reactions to be real and genuine, which just takes it to a whole nother level. And anybody that's willing, if you've ever gone grape stomping, you should do it at least once in your life. But willing to get her legs just stained and to feel and experience that, like she was in there. So where she does that whole like that's real, like she's like really experiencing these grapes squishing in her toes, and like she's just
like what I would do is just like fall and probably hurt myself.
I know where Lucille Ball makes a few appearances in these lists.
Yeah.
But I do have to say this. The one thing about Lucille Ball, and like when she does sticks her feet in, the eyes. What she does with her eyes is just, that's not something that's on your SAT, but it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't know, how do you learn that? And how much you have to practice that look before you get there. And it's absolutely beautiful. Michelle, what is your number 5?
Number 5 is I'm gonna go with Megan Mullally, because I just fell in love with her in Will and Grace, and then in Parks and Rec, not kid friendly, I repeat, but so funny. Like she's just so funny. You want to talk about someone who just takes over who this character is supposed to be and then takes it to a whole new level. And I think I just love her her presence and her crazy little voice, and she's so comfortable being that. And the fact that in Parks and Rec, when she's playing alongside her husband in real life, and
it was my favorite character. I relate way too much.
I'm sure you do. But just and she pulls that off, and like I can only imagine how much fun that was for her or for both of them. But definitely my favorite, one of my favorites.
If you don't mind, I want to piggyback on something with that. I think she was so brilliant on Will and Grace with that voice she did and everything, but I think it kind of hindered her on future stuff, because it took a while before you could watch her without hearing that voice that is not her voice at all. Another example of that would be Fran Drescher. She can never
Yes.
not do that voice anymore, and she has this actual
Oh my God, I can't believe we didn't mention Fran Drescher.
but she has such a she has a great voice. It's very sexy, but
She's hilarious.
but she does that voice, you can never get away from it. And I think Megan Mullally has actually done a lot more to get away from that character.
But I think hers was probably on a lower level though than Fran Drescher. Fran Drescher, that voice I think was just so over the top and so iconic, I guess, if you will. But Megan Mullally, like, because I can watch her in Will and Grace and then watch her in Parks and Rec, and I don't feel like I'm watching the same character. Really, like I don't feel like I miss the voice. I
No.
don't feel like I'm waiting for the voice.
I was honestly when I first started watching, I'm like when I saw her in other stuff, I was waiting for it because I love I love the character. But
I know.
it was just that, the character.
Her and Jack. I mean, talk about
They're
like
funny.
the perfect one of the perfect pairs.
Courtney, what is your number 5?
Two quick things. I saw Megan Mullally do Young Frankenstein, the musical on Broadway.
Oh my god.
The musicals, she plays the Madeline Kahn character. The musical's terrible. But she is a worthy successor to Madeline Kahn.
Really?
Yeah,
That's pretty high praise.
She does a great job as the character.
Wow.
It's a terrible show, but she does a great job. The other thing, one thing with the Fran Drescher versus Megan Mullally, Fran Drescher actually was a working actress up until then. It wasn't until she decided to use her real voice, which is the Fran Drescher voice, which is the nanny voice that we know. That's actually her real voice. She wasn't getting as many gigs prior because she'd gone to vocal teacher and gotten the
Spinal Tap voice.
She'd gotten the accent.
That's what she
out
was
of her
in.
voice.
That's where I saw her. That's where you saw her.
She did a lot of stuff. She was in a Disney TV movie. She was in Dr. Detroit. She was always a funny lady, but it wasn't until she decided to go back and pick up her jersey, her Flatbush.
Well, turned up.
Yeah, she turned it up, but that's her real voice. It's not as bad, but it is her voice. That's her real voice. That's when she broke out, because what's so funny about her is there's this beautiful, gorgeous woman, and she's got that terrible voice. It's the Singing in the Rain thing. Because I don't know how many of you have seen everybody at the panel just singing in the rain. That's one of the jokes, because you have Lena Lamont, who's this just gorgeous silent actress, but they don't want her to talk because as soon as talkies come in, she sounds like this. I mean, that's the funny part. It's the same thing with Judy Holliday, and so she started to really get success when she went back to her nasal voice, which I thought was funny. So, okay, back on track. Number 5, my number 5 is Kay McKinnon. I mean, pretty much in anything that she does, but one that really cracks me up is her alien abduction skits that she does on SNL.
No one can keep a straight face. No one. Every time she's done it,
she manages to break everybody. Like, the best part is when she did the one and Ryan Gosling was the guest star, and he literally could not hold it together. He had to stand up and turn around so that the audience couldn't see his face. I mean, it's just it's on YouTube. Can't tell any of the jokes because they're dirty, but I laughed so hard I almost peed. So there's that.
Outstanding.
Almost.
That's high praise.
Okay,
Michelle.
My number 4 is going to be Meg Ryan in the restaurant scene. Now, everyone knows what I'm talking about at that one, because I can't go too much deeper.
When Harry met Sally.
But that's
I'll have what she's having.
Yeah. Which is, you've seen that done a million times, and it's never funny except for that time.
Mm-hmm.
That has been parodied everywhere for so many years. No one has touched it, and it's so hilarious. Again, kids, if you know your parents are so daring, you can ask them to watch When Harry Met Sally. Yeah. Honestly, that's really the only bad scene, I think, but it's a lot. But talk about committing to a role, and that's what we're talking about with what makes the brilliant comedian the brilliant comedian. that is throwing yourself into a scene 100%. Christina.
Carol Burnett went with the wind. I fell in love with the woman when I saw that episode. I got in trouble. I got in trouble because I took our curtains down to make my Halloween costume because Carol did it. Why can't I? And just her dramatic delivery, her arms as she's walking. My dad is a very serious person and I'm not. And I used to go grocery shopping with him as an adult. And I would walk in the middle of the grocery store. And I'm in my 30s. Mm-hmm. And I'm doing the dramatic look. So really quick. My kids grew up learning that their parents had alter egos. My alter ego's name is Chrissy. Hello, I'm Chrissy. I'm 5 years old. And I will get in the grocery store and I will become 5 years old because it's funny to me. And life is too
I've heard you do
serious.
that several times.
You heard Chrissy several times. And so I would do the Carol Burnett walk from Went with the Wind in the grocery store as Chrissy with my dad, and he would do everything in the planet to avoid me. But she set a standard in my life because I endured a lot of other stuff, that humor is the great healer. Mm-hmm. And you commit everything you got to those moments, and she commits everything. I would be hard pressed to pick any moment where Carol Burnett wasn't all the way in.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle.
Number 4. So I'm going to go with, and this is okay. Well, I'm just going to go Kristen Bell in The Good Place.
Yeah. What the fork are you talking about?
Oh, fork. Which my little sister and I are constantly, texting each other stuff like, that's bullshit. And
hey, that's family friendly. We need to start using these. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Something about that, I say, like I was talking about earlier, she is definitely the quarterback of that show. She makes everybody better. Everybody is better. Well, between her and Ted Danson, everybody's better because of those two. I wouldn't care about that show if it was not for those two. But
and what's funny is that the show isn't overly shticky. There's not a lot, but she just has this, I don't know, inner dorkiness that I guess I can relate to. And I just love her. You can't watch that show and just not fall in love with her character. And she just delivers it so well. And I like her anyway. I just think she's adorable.
Well, her snarky deliveries in Veronica Mars are genius.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just amazing.
Yeah.
Nice. Courtney?
So I moved mine around a little bit. So my number 4 is, I know, I'm terrible. Basically Annie Murphy in Schitt's Creek, period, but especially a little bit Alexis, because it's such a parody of those kinds of girls and those kinds of pop singers, and she goes full force, and apparently she made up the dance that day, and I just crack up every time I watch it.
She's one of those characters that I love, but I had to get used to, because at first I hated her because she played that so well. I'm like, oh, this is annoying.
Ew, David.
I mean, she did a good job.
Yeah, no.
No, David.
But I had to watch a full season before I liked her, because I realized, oh, she's not like this. That's what she's playing at.
But see, it's funny. I think all of them are you have to they grow on you, and then you're like, oh, okay, I love you.
And her ability to say so much while just saying the word ew, just hilarious.
Hilarious. The way, her little hair, even just her expressions, or she's even have to
the uncomfortable look she gives is great. I'm gonna try to make everything be normal, but I'm really uncomfortable right now. That's a fantastic look.
She's good.
You have to study that. Okay, my number 3 is Lily Tomlin when she played the operator. She did that for years and years and years. First time I saw this, kids, was they had it was a special, and I think it was on every network, and they had a Russian kids were learning about America, and America was learning about Russians, and I don't know if anybody remembers that special that happened, but that's the first time that I saw Lily Tomlin, and she plays that character as she's talking to Gorbachev and just going for it. and I got it as a little kid, and then when you get older and you watch it, and it's even funnier.
Ernestine.
Ernestine, thank you.
Ernestine.
That's her name.
Yeah, 'cause
She's
you-
one of
you
my
get the
favorites.
jokes.
So
Yeah,
Well,
it's
it's
just
why
funny.
yeah.
No,
Go ahead,
my
Michelle.
grandma, I learned when I was a kid that my grandma used to have a job doing that. She with the little, and she used to have to plug the thing, and that's immediately where my brain went. I'm like I just pictured my grandma doing all this crazy things, like plugging in and laughing and being a weirdo and
Party
like
line.
the job. Yeah, like she's like, no, it wasn't.
One ringy dingy.
Two
ringy
Dingy.
And that's where that came from, kids. I know you probably don't, and everybody said that one, and everyone's seen it, but it's just
Mhm.
one of those that's so deep in the subconscious of culture that no one even knows where it came from.
So
That's
good.
brilliance. Christina.
So good.
Melissa McCarthy, Chris Farley impression, SNL. She put everything into that moment, the physical aspects of him, the way she dressed, and the cast could barely hold it together. Like when she comes up and she stands in between them and they had no idea she was going to do that. Like you can watch them and tell that they are trying not to just die laughing. She's just a genius and she commits to everything. So
Michelle.
I know we brought her up before, but Catherine O'Hara, pretty much anything because she is amazing and I love her. But in particular, obviously Schitt's Creek because that's one of my favorite shows on the planet. But then just the mockumentaries and yeah, I mean, I can't even pick out. I don't think I could pick out just one because I just love her in everything.
And
So
something
good.
everyone forgets about, but is so good is Orange County.
yes,
Yeah,
So good, and everybody forgets.
I was
that
an
one,
OC
unfortunately.
girl, so I connected. I loved it.
Courtney.
but her as
Oh,
her
sorry,
as
go ahead.
Moira in
Yeah.
in Schitt's Creek is just amazing.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is Gracie Allen. She was paired with George Burns because they were married for years. You can watch
Good
the
night,
Gracie
Gracie.
Alley. Yeah, she would. Good night, Gracie. And
My
she would always.
daughter's named after her.
Yeah, she would say. He would
Aw.
say good night, Grace. Say good night, Gracie, and she'd go good night, Gracie. And she was really good at that ditzy, not realizing what she was saying. But if you want to see some, I mean, the George Burns and Gracie Alley show is available on Amazon Prime to watch if you want. But also check out the movie Honolulu, because she goes, her name is Millie DeGrasse in that, and she makes fun of it the whole time, and it's just complete straight face. She's hilarious.
Fantastic straight man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
one of the best.
Which is its own
One of the
art form,
best.
and it
I
don't get
will-
its credit, much credit, but wow.
I will put in comments the story of my daughter being born and why she's named after her. But anyway,
I look forward to reading that actually. Okay, so my number 2 is, and we're gonna go by this one really fast, but the conveyor belt scene from I Love Lucy, putting them in the mouth. Oh, it kills me, but we're running out of time. So Christina.
I changed one of mine. Carrie Brownstein, Portlandia. She commits every moment. She's freaking hilarious. And if you've ever been to Oregon or ever been to Portland, you understand that there's so many accuracies in there.
Outstanding. Michelle.
Amy Poehler. I'm going to do a combo. Amy Poehler and Aubrey Plaza as a team in Parks and Rec is one of my favorite things on the planet. The wonderful gentleman who does my hair actually complimented me and said I'm the perfect blend of those two characters on that show, which like made my entire year. Anyway, yeah, those two together.
She was so good in Scott Pilgrim, but hey, when am I not going to take a Scott Pilgrim?
Right.
She's amazing.
There you
Yeah,
go.
amazing.
Courtney.
We're on number 2.
Yep.
Gilda Radner. I mean, in anything, but my favorite is when she played Judy Miller, which is her young girl who's like 9 or 10 character.
Yeah.
Always worthy. And the reason I love her is because my mom said, Court, you got to watch this because she's you.
Yep.
Especially the scene where she starts singing and dancing around her room and jumping on her bed, because I may or may not have done that
Yesterday.
Last week.
right, like my whole life. So
I feel like we could do a show on Gilda Radner because we haven't really touched on her, but she's so
yeah, good in everything. But Judy Miller was my favorite because I related.
Well, she was the best. She was one of the best on the Saturday Night Live cast, and that's a cast that included Eddie Murphy.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah.
And Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murphy and Bill Murray and all those
Murray.
people.
Okay,
And Jane Curtin.
up to the number one. My number one is Madeline Kahn. Flames. Oh,
Which was entirely made up. It was
Yes.
entirely improv. She made
funniest
that
part
all
of the
up.
movie, bar none. And I
If
love
you
that.
watch Martin Mull's face in the back, that's a legit reaction because nobody knew what was coming out her mouth at that time.
That's the best.
So good.
Christina.
Betty White, Cloris Leachman, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Season 4, Episode 1. It's the chocolate souffle episode. And again, and I think we're finding that a lot of times some of the best moments are made up. But Betty White takes the chocolate souffle out of the oven and she back kicks the oven door closed. And it's one of those high ovens. And the moment is hilarious because Cloris Leachman wasn't expecting it. And them together were just, they're genius.
Outstanding. Michelle?
I'm just gonna have to say Betty White in general, everything, every day, even if she's just sitting there being Betty. I just love her. She just-
I love watching her talk dirty. It's one of the funniest things in the world. It's like watching
I
Bob Saget
know.
talk dirty. It's
From
just-
the window to the
Because, like, I think we all feel it's like, oh, it's my grandma, but she's talking all crazy. Like, it's just, you just love her so much, regardless of what she's saying or doing. That's
very good.
number one.
Courtney, close us up.
My number one is Marilyn Monroe in all of her comedic movies, but my favorite, I think I'm gonna have to say where she's the funniest. And this is even going that she's in one of the movies that's considered the funniest movies of all time. So I'm like hot. Is where she plays Paula DeWitz in How to Marry a Millionaire, because she's supposed to wear glasses and half the time she doesn't, so she trips over things and she runs into walls and she doesn't know what she's doing. She gets on the wrong plane at one point in time because she won't put her glasses on. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But
No
I
one-
just love Marilyn Monroe.
No one's going to argue right now. So
Right, because he knows I'll kick his butt if he says anything bad
I'm
about
not saying-
Marilyn Monroe.
I think you're not the only one.
I'm a fan, but there's things. But we'll talk about that off air.
No, we won't.
This is the show, guys. Thanks for joining us, and go to our website www.iheartgeekshow.com. Use the com, we paid extra for it. Go to our Discord, go to our Facebook, and share our stuff. That means more than anything if you guys can do that. Comment on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, go to our Patreon. We have all the Star Wars movies now.
Yes.
We're about to go through every Marvel movie. We have so much content that you cannot possibly be bored anymore. So it's
And for only what, like a couple bucks a
like
month
$5 a month. That's nothing.
or more if you're feeling givey.
If you're feeling generous, you can. We're gonna discuss the new tiers next week. We'll get there. So
Yeah.
until next time, I'm Dub. I'm here with Christina and Courtney and Michelle. Keep on geeking on, guys.
How do we forget Sandra Bullock?
You have been listening to the latest episode of the I Heart Geek Show. Make sure you visit our website at www.iheartgeekshow.com. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you check us out on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep on geeking on to all of you geek rock stars.